Hey guys, welcome back to Coffin Nail. My name's Lightbreaker, and today I'm delighted to say I'm chatting with Dominic and Oobliette from Punk Masters Tsunami Bomb. Guys, welcome on the show.
Hey, good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
My treat, my treat. So, let's focus on your most recent release first. At the end of last year, you guys put out a 4-track EP, the Still Standing EP, with 2 live songs and 2 re-recordings of older songs, Irish Boys and El Diablo. Can you tell me about the EP, how it came together, what your thought was behind choosing those songs?
Okay.
We were both looking at each other like, huh?
I know, I'm getting look from Dominic like I should take this. After we had played the show in New York, we really loved the way the live recording came out. So we had in the back of our minds wanting to do an EP and include some of those songs. And then when we were recording some covers, I believe, for some Cleopatra comps we did like a Christmas and a Halloween style comp. Mm-hmm. We decided to throw in some songs of the past. Irish Boys is one of the oldest songs we did. Mm-hmm. And we always kind of wanted to do a better version of it. The version we had was on a 4-track and which is great for the style of song, you know, like one of those songs that kind of should sound like crap. But
it was recorded in my bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah, but we decided to kind of reinvent that. And then El Diablo, funny enough, like, you know, I was in the process of writing that song and that album when I left the band. Mm-hmm. And I really, really loved my keyboard part in it and was always kind of sad that never came to fruition. So that was one that when we were kind of talking about if we were to add another one, I really wanted to do. And on top of it, I think Kate and that song are just really great together. I think she sounds really powerful. And like when I hear that song with this current setup and with the keyboards added, it's kind of like how I always heard it in my head. So I wanted, you know, everyone to be able to hear that.
Right.
Yeah, and the whole concept behind it was we really wanted to do something like we have always been really good at kind of cultivating sort of a street team. It's always been something that's been really important to us. Like when Oobliette and I started Tsunami Bomb, one of the big things we wanted to do was kind of make a band that was the kind of band we would have really been into, like something we would have loved, and try and take all the things from bands we loved and put it into this. And one of those was the creation of what we ended up calling the Bomb Squad, which is just basically the VIP fan, the way for us to get to know like people who really care about our band. And are willing to help us like spread the word, promote the shows. And so we're always looking for things that we can do for them. So the 7-inch was conceived as a gift to them.
Nice.
And initially we were going to do like a 2-song, but then Oobliette reminded us all why she hates 2-song singles. And it has to be a 4-song 7-inch.
Yeah, there's no 2-song anything for the fan. Worse.
Has to be 4 songs for people to get a bang for their buck. Yeah. And so while we were preparing that, we were like, I wonder if we could like have just our street team, you know, pre-order it and we could make this 7-inch happen. And we could, but while we were doing that and putting it together and the pre-orders were coming in and it was obvious that the project was going to work. Jello Biafra heard about it.
Stepped in.
Yeah, the voice of God.
He heard about us doing it and got mad. He was like, "What do you mean it's only for your street team? Why can't? That's stupid. Like we should be able to put it out. Like why can't AT put it out? Why don't you want AT put it out?" And I'm like, "Well, no. I mean, it was just for our fans. It's nothing crazy."
Notice there's many stories where Dominic will be saying something and then you just picture like the door opening and Jello walking up, being like throwing the papers around, you know? Like,
yeah, no, it's
like plans on doing this, but this is what I think you should do.
Well, it must be hard to say no. It must be hard to say no to Jello Biafra.
Kinda. He can be really insistent, but he also I feel like he gets mad at us a lot. Like he's like, "What do you mean you're doing this?" Or "Why didn't you send it here? Why didn't you give us a chance?" And he got all mad, and he's like, "That's stupid. This is a great 7-inch. If AT should put that out, you should put out a version with AT." And we kind of discussed what we could do with it. And then so what we settled on was that the version that the street team was going to be able to order and have was going to be a color vinyl version. And it'll be the same cover, but a slightly different color combo.
Right.
And then the regular version that came out on AT would be black vinyl. And then it would come with like a limited edition shirt. So we tried to do something so that you had access to something no matter what. And though it was originally a gift for our street team, it ended up becoming a full-on release. So we ended up making sure that the 2 live songs that came from the New York bootleg stayed on the record, and then the two re-recorded songs that really needed to be re-recorded. So I'm glad that Oobliette pushed for that, because you know, once you hear them, you definitely hear the difference of why we picked those.
Yeah, for sure. Comparing with the old recordings, it's night and day, basically. And it's really cool that you guys are so involved with the street team. Because I remember like 15 years ago, loads of punk and scene bands had street teams. And I was actually wondering recently why more bands still don't have them these days. So how involved do you get with the Bomb Squad?
I mean, most of them are our friends, honestly. So many of them, I mean, we have a lot of newer people involved, but a lot of the ones that are involved are the people who were following us back in the late 90s. So, you know, like we know about their kids, we know what they do for a living. We've had ups and downs with them, you know, so it's cool. We've always been a group that was really involved with the fans and getting to know them, just because everybody, I think, has that moment where you finally meet somebody that you love their music or you love what they do, and they're just complete assholes. And
it happens.
We never wanted to be that way, so we really tried to kind of get to know them. So we're pretty active. Like we chat with them all pretty frequently, just casually.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think a lot of bands for a while there was a little while there that, and I think to a certain degree, there were companies that monetized the street team concept. You know, where they're like, give us your list, we'll create the list for it, we'll curate it, we'll take care of it, we'll get them all active. And it became like this sort of thing that bands paid for. And then, I don't know, somewhere along the line, it just sort of fell out of style, or bands got used to not doing it themselves. And then I don't even know if those companies exist anymore. But like for a while, it seemed like in the 2000s, the 2000 to 2010, 2015, that there were these companies that kind of showed up to do it for people. And we just never did that. So coming back, it's like,
Well, it turns out that's how you get a street team to survive this long.
Yeah, I think you just have to do it yourself, and you have to be prepared to put, like, we're pretty private people overall, but we're...
Whoa, sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think you froze there for a sec. You're pretty private people overall?
We're pretty private people overall, but I think that when it comes to the street team, like Oobliette said, the core of them are really old fans and old friends, and even the new ones are becoming friends. And we kind of, if you become part of that group and you sign up on our like group page for that on Facebook, or you hit us up through the message, through messages, like we try to be more available for those people, just to just because they're the people who care the most. I mean, they're the ones that will buy multiple copies of the record and will tell people how much they care about the band, and they argue for us, and it's like, that's a huge thing. So we always wanted to reward that. I mean, there are people who've tattooed our logo on them and that's incredible. So it's like, you have to show some sort of like respect and admiration for that. They care about the band as much as we do.
For sure. I mean, you say you have to, but a lot of bands don't. So fair play.
I just don't think they know to anymore. Like, or they don't know that should be part of it. But that's the difference between when some, where a band like ours that would be like a cult favorite for a long time and matter to people and surprise people. Like, people I feel like there's nobody that's like I'm okay with Tsunami. I've never heard anyone go, it's either like they don't like it, or or they're really into it. They're like, why do you not know about Tsunami Bomb? Or they're like, you really rarely get the person who's like, we're not that kind of band.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more love it or loathe it song maybe than Irish Boys. And as an Irish guy who I don't think I smell, or I don't think I stink, I should say. Is there a story behind that song that we need to know?
Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah. Oh, Dominic, thank you. Yes. Yeah, so we had a guitarist at the time that was not necessarily a member of the band, but he was helping to fill in because someone in the band was dating him. And he was a very nice person, seemingly, and then turned into not a very nice person right around the time he wrote a song that sounded very Irish. And at that time, it was Dom's laughing. I know. I feel like he should have had me sign like an NDA or something when he got kind of popular with what he's doing. But anyways, at that time, Em hadn't joined the band yet, and Kristen was still our singer, and she was most definitely not a punk singer. And that was the first song that sounded like really, in the vein of punk. Then back then we were a lot more eclectic. So I was like, I'll sing the song. And honestly, like, it's hilarious because when I wrote it, I was a virgin. I was like 16 and I was mad because he was kind of being a jerk. So none of the lyrics are really very factual at all. It was just, pure teen angst. And it's funny because this said person is now a very, very famous preacher who I think now is in the UK because he opened up a UK branch of his churches.
Oh, for God's sake.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and many of us in the band are at least part Irish. So it's like, I mean, I'm half Irish, full half Irish. So it's like, it's like we've had every so often somebody shows up and is like, hey, and it's like, hey, you know what? Listen to the lyrics, man. You know who this is talking about. You know at least one dude that's like this.
Yeah.
I know a country of them.
People are like really excited about it. Like we'll play a show and there'll be a guy with his shirt off and like written on his chest, like I'm Irish or something, more times than someone who's mad about it. But there is the occasional person who's pissed off about it. But the whole thing, like back in the day, I used to just ask who's Irish and people would just be like, and go crazy. And so it became a thing. But
man, I've got a Scottish grandparent and English grandparent. I've never said that I'm Scottish or English, But I got to say, though, the lead riff, it's convincing enough. It's Irish enough. It passed the test.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's also served as a test for new guitarists. Whenever we had to audition one, they have to be able to pull off that song and figure it out. And it is a litmus test every time we've had a new guitar. And we've had a lot of guitarists, and they've all had to been able to play that riff. And it's not easy. It's not an easy riff.
Yeah, I had to double check the current lineup before I came on today. I'm like, Andy now. Yeah, sweet.
Oh, but my shoes were puked upon. That's the only true story of that whole song. And
I was going to say,
I'm still mad about it. So.
I remember the shoes getting puked on, and I when you said that it wasn't really true, I was like, that happened because I remember how mad you were about that.
Yeah, you can. I'm cool with puke in a lot of different places, but on my shoes is not one of them.
I'm just gonna grab an individual audio clip of that phrase. That's fantastic.
That's great. Yeah,
that's your tagline for this interview.
Definitely.
That's definitely the caliber of lines that I come up with.
So the Still Standing EP and The Spine That Binds are the two releases since you reunited on Alternative Tentacles. Now, can you tell me what the big differences is with Alternative Tentacles versus old labels that you used to be with, like Kung Fu or whatever?
I guess in this aspect, like it wasn't like back in the day, we were just sending demos out and trying to get attention and, trying to see who thought we could fit their roster, which were pretty weird. So we got a lot of like, no way. And back then,
a lot of no ways.
Yeah, we got a lot of, we don't sign bands with girl singers. We got a lot of, you guys are weird. And it's funny how different things were back then compared to now. Now I think people would have their asses handed to them for saying some of the things we were told.
Right.
But that being said, with this, it was funny because when we were putting this one out, like we self-produced it just because we really wanted it to be us and like our vision. And we knew coming back was so delicate. And we thought about putting it out on our own too. It was actually I think Jello came to Dominic and was like, why aren't you pitching this to me? You work here. You run the label. Like, why wouldn't you do that, you jerk? Or something along those lines.
He was mad.
He was mad. Every Jello story starts with, so he was super mad.
Well, it seems like you guys are getting great returns from pissing off Jello Biafra. It seems to be working out very well so far.
Yes. Perhaps we should write a song about how angry we make Jello.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, all the labels said no. And then this time around, we started sending the demos out. And we were considering to put it out ourselves because we weren't getting any response again. And I was just like, people talk about, I've literally had people go like, oh, well, you don't know, your band's always had like been on labels and gotten to do whatever it wants. And it's like, dude, everybody has told Tsunami Bomb no.
Everybody.
Think of a label and they've said no. And they might have an excuse. It might have been a different person back then, but they've all said no. And any label we've been on, it was like, with Kung Fu, for instance, we did it like a bunch of bands came to the Vandals and said like, hey, you should check this band out. They're really good. Especially the Ataris actually went to bat for us.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they played with us and then they saw like the crowd reacting. They even said how much merch we were selling and they saw everything that got into it. With this one, Jello was like mad because we weren't giving him the demos, but that's like, we don't sound like an AT, man. Like it's not, we're not like anybody else on Alternative Tentacles, but
no, well, I mean,
just weird enough.
Well, there's some, speaking of weird, and like on AT, you're also with some good friends of mine, Arnocore. Like I've known those guys for years because they're quite popular in Ireland and the UK more than anywhere else in the world. And I saw that you guys played a gig with them like 2 years ago or something, right? That must have been crazy.
Was it 2 years ago now? Jeez.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah,
it was December,
almost.
right?
Yeah, we did play a show with them.
Unreal.
They're great.
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
They get back together. I'm playing keyboard.
They will. Give it time. They will. I don't think they can live not doing Arnocore.
I've already laid the seeds. It's happening.
Those guys are so great. And that was actually one of the bands that I did feel like we had some, ironically enough, some analogy with that we could go with a bit. And but AT is like the unifying AT band sound is what Jello finds interesting, and he liked us, which surprised me. I mean, he says that he doesn't like everything about us, like he's pretty brutal. He described us as that we sound like Pat Benatar goes goth, backed by TSOL. And then he has also said that we sound. He said a couple things, but in the end, I was surprised how much, for as criticizing as he can be and as mad as he gets, he really likes the band a lot. And he just thinks it's interesting, and in the end, that's his statement. He's like, I don't care how poppy it is or how whatever. It's like, is it interesting? Does it sound like anything else? Generally, when we do the stickers on the front of the album, we always say like, sounds like this, or, because we're trying to say if someone flipping through a record store looking at the sticker, like it says like, okay, if you like this or sounds like this, it's like, and I asked him, I was like, I'm having trouble coming up with like who's Tsunami Bomb. Who does Tsunami? Because when you think about Tsunami Bomb, it doesn't seem like it's that crazy distinctive, but it is. It's very just like when you hear it, you're like, okay, that's Tsunami Bomb. But,
it'd be easy to compare one song with another band. But that would change wildly from song to song. Yeah, of course.
Right. So he actually said, he was like, listen, he goes, we're not going to put that on the sticker. You don't you don't compare Tsunami Bomb to other bands. You compare other bands to Tsunami Bomb. He goes, you're like Queens of the Stone Age in that way. It's like you have your own sound, you're your own thing. He's like, so don't bother with that. And I was like, that's the highest compliment to have like a punk rock legend say that. I was like, damn, okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to write the music that we like.
And that's why it makes sense to me that you guys are on the same label as Arnocore, because there's things similar. There's no one the same as them, and same as them and you guys. It's the live show that sells it.
Yeah, Arnocore is definitely its own kind of thing, and it frustrates me that more people don't know.
Oh, man, tell me about it.
I think when people describe the band, then they get dismissed a little too easily, and it's wrong because they're so good. And then you see them live, and immediately you're like, "Oh, this isn't a joke. This isn't weird. This is a good band."
I need to watch a video of that show. Before we played, I made a joke because there's like in old theaters where you can get up above the stage and overlook like a balcony. And jokingly, I was like, I should just run off this during our show, which I wouldn't have done. It was way too high. But during their freaking show, they had like 30 people on stage, and you just see somebody run and jump off of it onto the stage.
Of course.
They were crowd surfing on top of each other. Like one of them would lay out flat and the other was standing on their back. I mean, those guys were no joke. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, graph surfing Enzo is one of the most iconic things I've seen at shows, man.
Dude, it was great. Cool. They were awesome.
Now, for those who aren't as familiar with Tsunami Bomb, you guys have started in the 90s and there's been a lot of lineup shifts. And I wanted to ask you guys specifically, as original members, now again since the reunion, how do you guys feel playing songs off the definitive act?
At first, that was tough.
I never really wanted to. Mm-hmm. But, you know, fans request it. I totally understand. And I feel like, just like after I left, I heard the band would always refuse to play Lemonade. And I think
that frustrated me so much.
After Dom left, maybe. I don't know. At some point, they started refusing certain songs. And, you know, even though they had been through change-ups, when I heard that, it really kind of bummed me out just because I saw how upset the fans were getting about it. And I thought that they were the ones kind of catching the brunt of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of opened my mind to it a little bit. But, you know, first coming back, obviously people were like, oh, this isn't Tsunami Bomb. This is a fucking cover band. Just because, you know, we had a different singer, a different guitarist, which, you know, it wasn't getting to me, but I didn't want to do anything to fuel that fire. Mm-hmm. So at first I wasn't really into it, but, you know, Gabe put his heart and soul into that album and cares about it. And so do the fans. So I think that it would be a disservice if we were to take that same stance and be like, no, this isn't our Tsunami Bomb. This isn't our era. Cause I think in order to come back, you kind of have to be open to being okay with all of it. No, I don't think it'll ever be a huge part of our set, but we sprinkle, we kind of play something from everything. So
I think that's fair enough, because at the time I can't imagine them dropping Lemonade, but I also can't imagine not hearing Dawn on a Funeral Day. So yeah.
Totally. If you're going to decide to be Tsunami Bomb, if we're deciding to be who we are saying, like initially when we came back, when we initially reunited this time, there wasn't really a plan to go longer. I mean, Oobliette and I were talking about doing a new group, and it somehow morphed into reuniting Tsunami Bomb. And then there was an idea of possibly, okay, once we're done with that, then we'll do a new group with whoever wants to. But then it just sort of kept working and it felt good. But as we continued, like she said, I'm basically repeating the same thing she said in a different way. You have a responsibility to be the band that you're being, and that means taking on all of the legacy of it. And we're not ashamed of our ex-members. And though I'll straight up say that would probably not have been the album that I would have written had I stayed in the band during those years. I wanted to make sure both Oobliette and I talked a lot about when we were writing The Spine That Binds. We really wanted to reflect that album as well. We needed to incorporate that in so that the sound made sense, so that everything made sense. So it made sense to play those songs. But it was something we weren't sure. Mike Griffin, guitarist on that album and on The Ultimate Escape, he was like, you know, at one point when he and I finally really talked about it, he was like, you know, it means a lot to me that you guys play those songs. Please play those songs. You know, I care about those songs. And, you know, so. Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm trying to do him justice.
Well, you guys, you've also done a lot of interesting covers. I mean, the Out of Touch single came out last year. I know that's part of a compilation, but you got Hall & Oates, you got Oingo Boingo. I know, again, we're talking about a past iteration, but there was Planet Schmanet Janet, which meant a lot to me because I was in a stage production of Rocky Horror when I was like 14. But with all the big variety of covers, even in those 3 songs alone, what songs would you guys individually love to cover?
God, my goal was always Danny Elfman and Oingo Boingo, and I was always so scared. And that's why when that Halloween comp came up, I was like, okay, I've been thinking about this for 20 years. We're just going to do it. Because you never want to make a cover that's not, I don't want to say as good as the original, but you want it to stand up to it. And they were at such like a high level. I was like, nothing we ever going to do is we're just going to embarrass ourselves. So I was really proud of that. But right now I've been really interested in trying to like do covers of some of our peers and have them cover our songs, just because I think it's really interesting. The BYO Records kind of used to do that, and it kind of went away. And but I don't know, something I want to cover. I wanted to cover Missing Persons Words, and I wanted to cover Concrete Blonde's Bloodletting, but make it really like metal-ish kind of. I've been pushing
I'm on board
for that since we first started. So probably, over 20 years I've been pushing for that. But yeah, I don't know.
And what about you, Dominic?
So I think the band's more open to it now.
Yeah. The band is definitely way more open to it. I feel like for the longest time we would suggest covers to former members, and it was just on deaf ears. They had no interest in doing.
We did Planet Schmanet, and then we did Battletoads, the video game.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you can find it, that's a deep cut. We can't find it. And then the very, very original lineup of the band did "Oh Boy," Buddy Holly.
Right, we did do a Buddy Holly song, and I have a
VHS of it. But other than that, like once the band kind of got its first core group, like people didn't really want to cover stuff. It was weird. We kept pitching it, but I think nobody could agree on what we were also different music taste.
Yeah. Well, it's fair enough. It's a different question when you're starting out to when you're established.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another cover coming out that's one of Andy's favorites. He was like
crazy.
He was really excited about and like begged. You could kind of tell when a band member is like they're trying not to beg, they're trying not to care too much because they know you can say no, and they're like even through an email.
We would have gone into a deep dark depression had we not done this. You could tell he was like minutes away from melting down if we didn't.
He wanted it.
We didn't do it. So because we took our sweet ass time, all the songs that a lot of people know got scooped up because it's a compilation of one band. And so we got a song I had never heard before.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Andy was like, I think we can do this. And he was so excited when we agreed. He actually made tracks like with the bass, with keyboards, everything, and sent it. And poor Dom wrote back like, maybe you should do this as a solo project because I think you know exactly how you want it to sound. And he's like, no, I just want to make sure, we're all on board and we're going to do it. It was his way of like herding sheep,
Fair
it's like,
enough.
come on, guys, So it was funny because I was like, the keyboard parts he wrote were cool, but it almost like
we all read the subtext in that.
I know. No, they were cool. They were definitely cool. They were nothing that could be played live because it was like a lot of arpeggiator type stuff.
Okay.
It could have been played live, but you would have had to pre-record it. But anyways, so it's funny. I get motivated in weird ways. And I am competitive and whatever else. Dom's to lose it. So when I sat down to record, I again listened to what he did, and basically it was like, I'm not going to do any of that at all. So that's totally different. And I went out of my comfort zone because I usually don't do like tons of layers and tons of different stuff because I do like playing everything live that I play on the recording.
Yeah.
This one I would need 2, possibly 3 keyboards to do that with as I record it, but I could definitely record it live. It just won't be as cool. But I did some weird stuff, but it's a weird band that we covered. And
can we just say who it is? I think we can.
You're going to be the only one who knows.
This is the first time we're admitting this.
There's about a 2-week
song.
Oh, nice. Oof.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the first person asked said Waiting Room, right?
I'm sure. But
we didn't get that. We didn't get that song.
Awesome.
But what was the name of the song we did?
Walking Syndrome.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Walking Syndrome. And I have to say, so it was all coming together great. And I was like, how does this sound so good for us all recording at home remotely? And then freaking Kate sent us her vocals, and it is so good. I particularly did not like this song at all, and I really was doing it for Andy because I knew he liked it. But it's cool. I'm excited for people to hear it.
Awesome.
It's really great when your own bandmates can do something that make you jaw drop. And I had to say, like, I was really impressed with Andy, and Gabe's always really incredible. So when his drums got put down, I was like, oh, that's way better than the pre-recorded demo drums. And, you know, Andy, I kind of had a taste of what he was going to do. So like, he just tore into it. You could hear the joy in the guitar of playing the song. Like it's a pure joy in his playing. Like every strum is him just living his Fugazi fantasy. So when I threw down the bass, and I was like, okay, I'm really happy with what I'm doing here. And then like I heard Oobliette's keyboard part, and I was like jaw drop. I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking good. This is because there's no keyboard on the original song. So that alone like just changes everything. There's this whole new structure to it that never existed.
Awesome.
But then Kate comes into it, and I'm just like, who is this lead singer? Where did this come from? And
he's like wildly fierce in it. It was great.
Fuck. You've got me excited anyway. The hype is real.
No, Jello heard it, and he was like, he wrote this like long thing that I shared with everyone where he wasn't
mad.
He was not mad.
Ooh, that doesn't bode well.
One of the best things. He was like, no, this is one of the best things I've heard you guys do. This is
fucking awesome.
And I was like, really? I was like, I love it, but I was like, you know, you don't know how. And apparently he's very familiar with Fugazi, so he was like,
I'd imagine so.
This is really, really cool.
That is so
I'm
cool.
excited for people to hear it. Like that's a cover that I'm excited. I never would have thought. I would have never said Tsunami Bomb should cover Fugazi. Like I would never.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been my guess either.
And it sounds like a really crazy Tsunami Bomb song to me.
Awesome.
It doesn't not sound like us, but it also is very different from anything.
It sounds a little more experimental. I think it airs on the experimental side, but I think that it wouldn't surprise me if it hit like mid-album on one of their albums, something similar.
Well, that's really cool.
Very different.
It's going to be on a comp that comes out in Europe, so it's going to be a UK comp.
Awesome.
So that's coming. But yeah, man, I was really happy with that. But like in terms of other covers, like I've always thought we do a really good job of "It's a Beautiful World" by Devo.
Oh,
I think that would be Devo, a really cool song for us.
I
always liked.
Totally.
I like the message of it, especially at the end, and I think we'd have a lot of fun. I think we could turn that into a Tsunami Bomb song. That would sound really cool.
That would be cool.
I can go on for a while.
Yeah,
There's a couple like I wanted to do a song from Labyrinth forever with the band.
Talk about doing the Fire Gang song.
Yeah, the Fire Gang song.
Awesome.
In Labyrinth, you know the creature, the creatures that pull off their heads.
Yeah.
Fire.
In Labyrinth, they have a song, and we've always thought that Tsunami Bomb could do that. We all have those tattoos.
It seems on brand. You should get in touch with the guys in Punk Rock Factory. They do incredible covers. Do you know that? Yeah, they've done a bunch of covers of like Disney songs, and they, like Rhodey from Protest to Heroes sang with them, and a bunch of people. Check out Punk Rock Factory if you get a chance, if you want to see some interesting punk covers. But
I'd like to see us to do a metal song too. I would like to do a full-on metal song.
Well, you guys in Arnicore should do one of each other's songs. That would be sick.
Oh, that would be epic.
That would be a lot of fun.
Now, speaking of punk bands, I got a message in from a band that I've had on the show before, an incredible band from Belfast called Problem Patterns. So I'm going to hold up my tablet at the screen so you guys can see this question. This is from Alana.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Alana from Problem Patterns, and I have a question for Tsunami Bomb. I actually spent quite a lot of summers growing up going to the Warped Tour, and you folks always stuck with me because you were one of the few bands on the whole lineup that prominently featured women, and I know that meant a lot to, young women and teen girls at the time seeing you up there. And I just wondered what that felt like at the time in terms of, did you feel celebrated? Did you feel tokenized? And how do you think the gender balance would be if Warped Tour were to return today? Thank you so much.
So I know that looked weird when my screen blended into the background, but you guys heard that, yeah?
Yeah. Tokenized. Yeah.
Does that seem right?
Okay, how to say this. Kevin Lyman, who created the Warped Tour, has always been a huge supporter of Tsunami Bomb. He got into us early on.
They had a women's stage.
Right.
Yeah. Luckily, we weren't a part of that, though I understand why. So it gets... it's weird to be a man and answering those questions. But I do want to speak to a little bit of the experience. I will say that Warped Tour was an amazing experience. It was like joining the circus, and I've had fun every time we did it. The later years, even in a way, even more with this group, which we'll talk about in a second. But in those early years, Kevin Lyman was really into Tsunami Bomb and was very supportive right away and invited us on. And it was great. It was really exciting to be a part of it. We weren't put on a women's stage or anything in particular. There were issues, though, because there were times when in that lineup, our lead singer at the time, Emily, couldn't get on stage more than once because she showed up late. And they wouldn't believe her, even with a pass, even with an artist pass, even with everything. The local security would be like, no. And I'd hear this yelling eventually one time from the crowd who was trying to get our attention. And I look out, I see all these people waving, and then I look over and I see Emily near tears because she cannot get back there to get on stage. And we're about to play. And we were on stage going, where is she? So there were things about that, but I will say that, and then, like I said, they eventually did a woman's stage to try and encourage that, but it's always problematic when you do stuff like that because you're kind of isolating. Yeah. So you're kind of isolating it.
Not isolation.
Yeah, no, it's segregation. Like you're kind of segregating. Yeah, I have never yet met a band that has mixed memberships or all women who ever said like, yeah, we just want our own stage. Like most of them really just want to be considered a band, not a girl-fronted band, not an all-girl band, just band, and be on all the stages. As for recent experience, I'll turn this over. I'll shut up since I am not a woman. But I'll let Oobliette take that.
Yeah, I mean, the world now compared to when I first did this is definitely different. But I feel like right now it kind of walks a fine line because, you know, even as we've been back together, we'll see playing festivals or different things that the bands before and after us or right around us will be bands with women or female fronted. And you do see it, like there's been a few festivals where depending on the way the stages were, like we played stages where most of the bands with women played, not, you know, whatever. And it's funny because we do have 3 out of 5 members that are men, but I guess because we have 2 women, they're going to put us in that. And I know listeners too, like, you know, you hear people say all the time, like, oh, I don't really listen to female fronted punk. It's annoying or whatever. So, you know, that stuff still exists. And right now it's weird because there's so much positivity in the scene too. And like, you know, with women, like trans, like everything, there's lots more inclusion than I think outwardly than there has ever been. But at the same time, you do feel sometimes like, okay, are they putting this group of bands together because they're all really popular and have a similar audience? Or are they putting them all together because, you know, they have a bunch of women or LGBTQ or whatever, and they want to make that a thing?
Yeah.
So it's funny because you almost feel, like a token or something because of that too. Like it's hard because you never just feel like you're just playing in a band. Like it gets called all the time. And even sometimes in interviews and questions, you know, people will ask me like, I don't know, about like makeup or not as much as it used to,
Seriously.
but like what I'm going to wear on stage or things like that. They're not going to ask Dominic what, you know, he wants to wear on stage or what.
Well, outside of Vans Tour, do other promoters or like venues, people like that still focus on it the way that it was in Warped Tour when there was a women's stage?
I think you hear less things like, I don't know. It's hard because even now, you know, like we'll go to book a show and like you'll hear promoters kind of being like, well, let's get some other female bands on this and make it a thing, which a lot of times we meet great bands and we have a lot of fun with, but it's still weird.
Yeah.
It's not as weird as it used to be. Definitely back in the day, all the time, like people would see me carrying the giant keyboard case and be like, oh, are you carrying your boyfriend's equipment? Or, you know, just making shitty comments all the time. Same thing. It'd be hard to get into venues. Sometimes they'd think you were a girlfriend or a groupie trying to get backstage. But I think it was funny. The stuff that pissed me off the most back in the day was that they would rather get an all-female band that was shit and couldn't play their like their instruments to play with us than, just a talented regular band. We would show up in these towns and it'd be, a 4-band bill, and 2 of the other bands would be all females usually, and most of them couldn't even play a fucking chord. And it was like, but they were all super cute.
Yeah.
And that's how we're kind of like adding insult to injury. It's like, okay, if you're going to book us always with females, like at least book us with talented bands and not just eye candy. So,
no, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to hear a talented band, check out Problem Patterns later on. They're fucking awesome punk band. And
I mean, it's hard because, you're trying to give opportunity, like, you want to give opportunities to everybody who comes along. But, as much as it's changed and there are so many more women playing now, I can't 100% sit there and go give everyone a pass and say it's all cool. That's right. Like, we do see weird things come up over and over again. And it's like these weird little patterns. And I just would have never noticed had I not been in a band with 2 women. Yeah. Like, I feel kind of stupid. I have to throw that in because I feel like a lot of guys just don't. It's the same thing that I think where Caucasians don't necessarily understand the Black experience because you just,
how can you?
Why would you think that? Yeah, but like I would not have noticed the million subtle little sexist comments and shit that like not even outright, but just like she said, like you see it in the band, like Oobliette will call it. She'll be like, watch the lineup, watch which stage we get put on. And she's right every time. And it's nothing wrong. They're great bands. We're put on, we can't sit there and say we're on with bad bands all the time. Like now we've been put with some amazing bands. We do see a pattern. Yeah, fantastic friends and talented musicians who I'm stoked that we got paired with. But I do notice that we all got paired. Again, and it's not just Warped Tour. It's like it's everything, and it's just sort of weird how to explain it. Because
you'll see the pattern. It always happens.
Yeah.
It's weird. So you don't want to call it out, but it definitely is there. And I would never have noticed it if I was in a band full of guys. It would never be something that I would have seen.
Yeah,
but it's funny. I mean, like even with The Spine That Binds, like on YouTube, somebody reviewed the album. And this guy, there's the song Naysayers, which is written about Chris, who was playing guitar for us, who died, and just about how he loved living life. This song is literally just about like, fuck the naysayers, love living life. And this guy on his video review of our album said that he didn't like women trying to hate on men and feeling all powerful. And it just really turned him off of the whole album because it was obviously a song about women, not being able to deal with confident men. And I was like, this has nothing. Like, I don't even know where he got it from. But it's stuff like that like I feel like people get triggered by. They'll listen to it and just automatically create this whole narrative in their head. And then, the singer's a psycho bitch. And it's like, this was actually about our friend who died and about how he lived the way he wanted to. And somehow you spun that into your own sexist, weird narrative that was never there.
That must be particularly hurtful. Yeah. Fuck.
It's just weird.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But look, even if things are getting better, that doesn't mean things are good. But hopefully it'll be less and less of a regular occurrence. Let's look at something a bit more upbeat to wrap up, though. Hey, I've got a quick lightning round for you guys. So I'll throw out 2 things and just pick one. So first up, on tour, would you rather have good food or a good bed?
Food.
Yep, unanimous sound.
I'll sleep on the fucking floor.
We all have on tour. Dominic, would you rather have a good bass or a good amp?
Good amp.
Fair enough.
Because a good bass will sound like shit to a bad amp.
That's fair enough, actually, yeah. And Oobliette, would you rather have the best synth electronic keyboards that can do anything or have a grand piano at home?
The best synth that can do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah?
Yep. Yep.
Just reckon you get more fun out of it?
Yeah, and I can make it sound like a grand piano. And
Well,
actually, it's funny. I prefer baby grands anyway. you would have said Baby Grand, maybe it would be different.
I'll make a note of that for when I chat to you guys in 2 years after the next album comes out.
Okay.
And
Sounds good.
last one, since
Sooner
you,
than that.
oh, I hope so. But since you guys are punk band from California, Bad Religion or NoFX?
I don't like either.
Bad
Bad Religion. Maybe.
Yeah, Bad Religion. I think NoFX would pick Bad Religion.
All right, how about I add it on the fly? Dead Kennedys or Guantanamo School of Medicine?
Which Dead Kennedys?
What do you mean?
Jello.
It's all the same.
You're right. It was a trick question. With Jello, there's no wrong answer, is there?
I would say, ironically, Fat Mike once said, the funny thing about...
That name just fell on the floor.
Yeah, I'm name dropping, but he deserves credit for this. This is a very good observation. He said that the funny thing about Jello is that any bar band could have Jello sing in front of them, and they will become the Dead Kennedys. But the Dead Kennedys without Jello start sounding a lot like a bar band.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it is his distinctiveness.
Yeah.
So. It's just weird, but
The fastest vibrato in the world, if you don't count Brock from 36 Crazy Fists.
Yeah.
So looking forward, we have a Fugazi cover coming out in a compilation soon, and any sight in the horizon of a new album?
Well, we do have another 7-inch coming out too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Cleopatra Kung Fu Records is putting out the both Dead Man's Party and Out of Touch as a 7-inch.
Nice.
As a 2-song 7-inch.
Oobliette wasn't really happy about that, but yeah, they are putting out a 2-song 7-inch for us on
Wow.
45.
Well, don't tell Jello.
And then, but I don't know, we're talking about stuff. I mean, we're sitting on a bunch of songs.
We got
Awesome.
a bunch of stuff written.
Yeah. We have a
Pretty
new...
good site.
Well, it sounds like individual home recordings is working well so far, so hopefully you'll hear something new soon.
Yeah, we really want to kind of get a little faster, get a little
Nice.
crazier all over the place. I don't know. We have goals. We have goals.
Super. I can't think of a better point to end with than that. Oobliette, Dominic, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, guys, if you haven't checked Tsunami Bomb out, there's no finer time than this.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Hey guys, thanks very much for watching. It's YouTube. You know the drill. Be sure to like and subscribe to get a notification about the next interview, because you never know who it might be. I don't know who it's going to be. Could be Scott Stapp. Could be someone good. But like and subscribe and there'll be a new interview every second week. Better still, you can listen to the Coffin Nail live on Keith FM. That's KEITHFEM.com. 6 p.m. every second Friday. And also you can listen back to full episodes on mixcloud.com/Lightbreaker. And I'll chat to you guys again soon. Have a good one.